The third installment of the series set in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, Baldur's Gate has become a breakout hit this year, as millions of players are currently frolicking through the fields, fighting the friendly local Eldritch abominations, and f***ing everything that moves. Its success has made me think of the equally epic and very much similar game I promised, Genshin Impact. Look, I just think of Genshin Impact all the time. Everything makes me think of Genshin Impact, okay, just let me be. Specifically, it made me wonder about what Dungeons & Dragons alignments would our favorite Tevat delinquents be. If you don't know, D&D alignments are kind of a guide for your character's moral and ethical standpoint on things, with one axis of the grid judging goodness versus evil, and the other judging lawfulness versus chaos, creating a matrix of archetypes. Today we'll look at where I feel the Mondstadt characters fall, because I would be here all day if we tried to do every single region in one video. I'm also not going to label every single character, rather I'm just going to pick one character who I feel represents each archetype best. Okay, let's go. Lawful Good for all of our boring paladin enjoyers. The choice here is rather simple. I'm going to go with Mother Jean. Yes, Mother Jean. Not Mommy Jean, Mother Jean, because the Knights of Favonius are a bunch of children. As the acting Grand Master of the Knights, Jean is probably one of the most principled characters in the game, driven to uphold the ideals of freedom for Mondstadt that are embodied by this dude, the alleged Animal Archon, as well as following the example of Vanessa, the founder of the Knights of Favonius, someone so apparently virtuous that she was given a VIP all days access pass to Celestia. Many see her as the standard of what a good person should be, the moral high ground of not only the Nation of Freedom, but even Tevat as a whole. She holds herself and others to high standards, and always tries to solve problems by the book, only resorting to more under-the-table methods in desperate situations, such as that time when Dvalin went a bit crazy and almost huffed and blew Mondstadt down. That was a crazy time, huh? For her duty-bound nature and the fact that she is the only sensible woman in the cast because she actually wears proper pants, Jean is Mondstadt's perfect representation for the lawfully good category. Neutral good, and honestly there were a few decent candidates here, including old Baba Tunde himself, but I'm actually gonna go for Kaya. As someone who's loyal, duty-bound, and approaches situations with the best intentions, while also not being opposed to bending the rules a tad in order to achieve his goals, this balance probably makes him the best candidate for Mondstadt for neutral good in my opinion. His silver tongue and at times mysterious movements can make him come across as pretty duplicitous, and that he's secretly hiding some sort of dark side, that pulling up his eye patch will unleash some unspeakable horrors on the world, like some Pandora's box. Pirates? Box? Pandora's eye? Are we just going to find out he lost his eye playing tennis or something? Who knows? Despite him always seeming to be conveniently positioned for some shenanigans, he has shown time and time again that he does have a heart of gold, and only wants to help the people he comes across, even if he is willing to be a bit loose with the interpretation of rules and laws in his efforts. You know, he would actually be a good D&D. He's like your average mate that you play D&D with on Sundays with your group. Kaya, you can't just do a charisma skill check and convince a ruin god to stop attacking us. Where does it say I can't? It's a fucking ruin god. You should inherently know you can't just convince it. Show me the rulebook. Show me exactly where it says I can't. Look, in the 3rd edition of the rulebook, yeah, but we're playing 3.5 right now. You know 3.5 was just some shit Venti made up because he was bored and wasn't actually... You see, this is why I hate playing with you. You Mr. Freeze copycat ice cream making douchebag. Okay, Christian Bale, how about you call up some of your other friends to play? Yeah, that's right, you can't, because you don't have any friends. Look, even Dad didn't like playing with you. Oh, here we go. Mentioning Dad again. You really are Wish.com Batman. Listen here, Elsa. You Because of this, Klee's babysitter sits comfortably in neutral good for me. Like very comfortably. Look how happy he looks. Bro's extended. He looks like he's at a photo shoot and everything. Speaking of Kaya, let's go to his red-headed ex-husband, wine connoisseur, believer of retribution, and Batman cosplayer Diluc Wayne. Diluc is the prototypical chaotic good character. Jokes aside, the fact that he borrows so many elements from Batman, who is probably one of the most famous chaotic good characters in modern fiction, is very telling. Slightly unrelated, but can we just have a scenario where Bennett becomes the Robin to Diluc's Batman or something? Diluc wants to achieve good, and he wants Mondstadt to move forward. He also does think that the Knights are a bunch of pussies, and it's with that edgy My Chemical Romance sense of rebellion that he became the Dark Knight hero after leaving the Knights of Favonius due to certain history. It's clear that Diluc somewhat has a disdain for authority, and is willing to go outside of purely lawful and societal norm standards in order to pursue his vision of the greater good of Mondstadt. He is highly principled and is willing to follow those principles even if it means ruffling a few feathers and making Jean's paperwork in the morning a bit of a nightmare. After all,
rules are made to be broken!
While it does put him at odds with the Knights, there is clearly a respect present for both his efficiency and his ability to stick to his guns. For that, angry Pyro Man is just going into chaotic good. Onto the neutral side, and we start with Lawful Neutral. Given how many of the characters in Mondstadt are part of the Knights of Favonius or align with them at certain points, it's surprisingly difficult to find truly neutral characters. So for Lawful Neutral, I'm actually going to go with Mona. She swears no real allegiance to any creed, organization, or lawful standard, but she's also shown to have some steadfast principles, and is dedicated in her study of astrology and her commitment to becoming the very best of her field. While she does mostly solely care about that, and also whether she'll have enough more to buy a sandwich for lunch. Such a relatable queen, so true, speak your truth, bestie. Her powers have also been used for good and to the advantage of organizations such as the Knights of Favonius. She also doesn't have any legal troubles from what I remember. I think. I don't know, maybe she stole a horse in a past event, I'm not sure. Hang on a second, we have horses! You are the cavalry captain! What did you think cavalry was? It's not as if she's opposed to doing good. In fact, overall, she's a pretty morally upstanding and good person, hence the lawful part of this equation. But she does not commit to the greater good as her life's ambition, instead focusing on herself and her own work, hence the neutral part of this equation. And if you take lawful and you take neutral and you add them together, you get 42?
Quick maths!
That one can't be right. Anyway, Mona I feel is the best candidate for Mondstadt's Lawful Neutral. My true neutral pick is Razor. He's literally a wolf child. That's legitimately my entire argument for this point. Moving on. For chaotic neutral, this is where we find the Archon of Mondstadt, as Venti will be our representative for this alignment. And I mean, he's a bard. It makes sense. As the god of windy boys, obviously he places the ideal of freedom for all above anything else. But that also includes his personal freedom, which is why he's been on a perpetual bender around Tevad and has been on Archon vacation leave for the past hundreds of years. Even though he is shown to help people and clearly cares about the citizens of Mondstadt, it is far from wrong to call him self-serving in a lot of ways, wishing to indulge in the freedom that he's helped his people achieved. I mean, who can blame him? He's a man that cannot be shackled, not by location, duty, or strict ideology. He's shown to not only be pretty fluid in some of his thought processes, not to the point of being some unrepentant killer, but enough to be classified with a serious case of silly little guy syndrome. His viewpoints on things have also been seen as unorthodox and quirky even to some of the Archons. Like honestly, if Raiden finds you weird, that's a bit of an achievement. Therefore I feel like chaotic neutral is the perfect place for our tone-deaf bard. He won't care because he's probably drunk by now. It's only 8:15 in the morning.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Moving on to the evils, and honestly this was a bit strange to try and figure out. The Mondstadt story is only a relatively short prologue with no real in-depth villains. Hell, the final boss fight is against an entity that's not even evil in the first place. For Lawful Evil then, I'm going to go a bit off the cuff and pick the Mondstadt aristocracy. The Mondstadt aristocracy ruled the pre-Knights of Favonius for around 1,600 years, creating a ruling class of people who were probably about 4 seconds from calling you vermin at any given opportunity. Given the representatives of the Lawrence clan that we see in the modern day, it's clear that the aristocrats had all the fairness and standards of the ruling class of the French Revolution, to the point that their oppression woke barbatos. Do you understand how much of a dickhead you have to be to get Venti's attention of all people? Like, look at this man, he looks like he's about to call me a slur. Either way, clearly modeled after the classes societies of old Europe, despite us not knowing much in-depth information about them, it's safe to say that they would probably fall under Lawful Evil. Neutral Evil, and again this is going to be a bit of a weird one, but I'm going to put in La Senora. Yes, she literally only appears for about a split second to look dangerously hot and then kick Venti in the nuts. But as a character overall, I feel like she does fall into the neutral evil category. The former Rosalind holds a grudge against Venti after feeling as if his inaction led to the death of her lovers during the Cataclysm and the downfall of Condria. Consumed by grief, she transformed into the Crimson Witch of Flames by using liquid fire to transform her. That is a quite intense waxing method, but okay. La Senora stands as the 8th of the Fatui Harbingers, and is shown to be dutiful to their goals. However, like many of the other Harbingers, has also shown herself to have her own ambitions and goals separate from Queen T's. Hinted at given that she probably dislocated Venti's spleen with that kick. You can't even dislocate a spleen, that's how mad she was. She found a way.
What you say? That you only meant well, cause you did.
So La Senora, take your place in Neutral Evil. Finally, Chaotic Evil, and once again we're gonna go with an organization that isn't fully explored by the end of the Mondstadt prologue, but are kind of the main villains of it, and that's the Abyss Order. A group that seemingly exists purely to cause chaos, as if the entire order is just ran by a whole council of evil Hootaos.
Silly churl, Bill.
Every place they step foot in, their goal is to sow anarchy into the general environment. What's their end goal? We don't know. We would ask our sibling, but they say like 2 words and then fuck off until next year like Dainsleif. Obviously there is a lot more to them and we do kind of know their goals by this point, but it would take like another half an hour to get into it and I need to get to McDonald's soon. So the Abyss Order will just take the final slot into Chaotic Evil. And that's my view on the alignments that I think would fit the Mondstadt characters. But what do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Do you think we should get a Baldur's Gate style spin-off of Genshin Impact where we replace Asterion with like Rosario or something? Which would probably somehow make the current fans even more thirsty than they are. Which is impossible given how some Genshin fans sound like they've already died of dehydration a year and a half ago. If you like this video, consider hitting a thumbs up and tapping that strange red button if you want to know when I next do some shenanigans. But for now, safe tidings traveler, hope to see you in the next one.